Hello and welcome to episode number 81 of the WP Café show with me, Keith Devon, and my co-host, Mark Wilkinson. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about a few things. One that's cropped up for us this week around namespacing in commercial plugins. It kind of had it. Mark and I had an interesting debate about that, and Mark put it out to the wider community. So we'll cover that topic. I'll talk about what I was up to last night and potentially touch on the story about OpenAI. I think it was OpenAI and WordPress.com and Tumblr and selling of content, which I just think is an interesting topic. No kind of hot drama from my point of view on that one, but just interesting to discuss kind of what we expect of our content on platforms like this and what people are kind of allowed to do with it. So thanks for joining. If you're live with us on YouTube today, please do say hello in the chat. It's always good to hear from people who are watching along live. If you're joining us on the podcast, thank you very much. Good to have you along. And as always, if you're not subscribed in some form or another, YouTube, you can subscribe on there and you'll get handy little notifications in your inbox or whatever whenever a new show is out. And obviously, if you're listening along on the podcast and you feel like you like kind of WordPress content like this, we do this every week, and you can subscribe on your podcast player of choice. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I was looking at the analytics stats on YouTube yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently 79% of the people that watch our videos, which you've got to assume is quite a few WP Café users, do not subscribe to us. So yeah, there you go. Interesting. I sort of expect it's a lot of people watching the other sort of older content as well. But hey,
yeah, it could be.
That's good. Yeah.
We could probably look at that specifically for like a recent video.
Yeah, I don't know if you can dig down into it. Yeah, I'm sure you can. There's loads of stats, isn't there, on YouTube? So it's good. Yeah. My week's been good. I've been doing some development, which is always nice. Feels like a bit more old school development as well, which is kind of nice. So it's good. Usual support emails, this and that. It's gone really quick. Friday already. Back to another episode. It seems to have flown by. So all good. You?
Yeah, pretty good. A little bit tired today. Had a late night. I was up in London last night.
I may as well make that the first topic. Then.
May as well just get into that. Yeah. So it was WordPress London. The meetup last night. It's back after a 4-year hiatus or something like that. I think there was a couple of social events last year, kind of small scale social events, but this was the first proper meetup again in a proper venue with beers and pizzas and speakers, and it was fantastic. I don't know, I was just in my element. I really was. I just absolutely loved being around WordPress people in real life again. It was just an absolute pleasure. The event was really good. So Dan Maybe and Paul Smart running it these days, and they did a great job, finding a venue and putting the event on. I think it could have been potentially advertised and put out there a little bit more. I was speaking to a few people that had only just heard about it through somebody else who was going, rather than it hadn't reached them in their normal channels. So potentially some work to do around that. But the attendance was good. Lots of people, lots of old faces. Met a few new people. It was super.
I retweeted it out there. Follow me, WP Mark. I'll let you know when they're on.
Yeah. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah, two good talks. So we had a talk by Alex Denning about AI, and it's kind of like you kind of broke it down into kind of three kind of stages of using AI with WordPress, and how the first stage is all just productivity wins, like sack your copywriter and get AI to write your blog posts for you. And he's like, that kind of productivity stuff doesn't really interest him that much, but as you kind of go up the ladder, it gets more interesting when you're taking bigger data sets and doing stuff that humans really couldn't do. Like, you need a lot of time and a lot of people to do the kind of jobs that large language models can do practically instantly.
You were quite excited about that when they told me this morning. It was like, oh, I've got lots of ideas. What can we do with this?
Well, I do and I don't. Like, I don't have like a specific idea that's come out of it yet. Like, but I am inspired to try it on those. We've talked about AI quite a lot already and how we're using like ChatGPT and Copilot and whatever else. So we are kind of using it for those kind of productivity wins, I guess. But yeah, I agree with that.
I've given you a project now.
What?
I've given you a project to do with all the jobs. So
yeah,
that's your task.
Yeah, that's
use
quite
AI.
Good.
Yeah, I think that could help us as well.
To categorize the jobs.
Yeah, so all the jobs that come through the job relay system, we save a copy of them, and everybody knows that we save a copy of them before you get.
Yeah.
Not that we do anything with them, but and they're all public on people's websites. There's no private information there. There's nothing, protected. But we did that to do something with at some point in the future if we thought we might be able to do something with them. And the problem with them is that all of the jobs come with like a myriad of different categories and so forth. So like I just looked at the data set and there's like 1,700 categories that are assigned to all these jobs, which we need to standardize all that. So that every job comes through the system has a standardized categorization, job type, and then we can start doing stuff with the data based on that. So I still don't know what, but that's the first thing, is get that data in order. And then once you've got it in some sort of order, you could then perhaps do something.
Well, we can potentially pull out some interesting kind of insights around, the obvious things is like average salary for a particular job type or a particular, comparing salaries between locations and things. I know this is stuff that people already kind of do in the industry. But yeah, there's, when you've got a large data set like that, there's should be something interesting to find in there. We just got to think about how we want to slice and dice it. And
I think I'd have to check the first data set that we collected, but I think we've been collecting them for nearly 18 months, I think. And I'm pretty sure we've got about 600,000 jobs in the database. So there's quite a few. Not a gigantic data set, don't get me wrong, but I think big enough to give some reasonable insights as to certain things, put it that way.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and as we obviously hopefully grow and get bigger and get more jobs through the system, then we'll end up with a bigger data set, which is always good.
So. We were talking this morning about it. I think there's potentially some things we could do around the job publishing workflow, and like kind of compliance type checks pre-publishing. I think that's potentially a really powerful use case, like not just in the recruitment industry, but just generally. Before you publish this, run it through some kind of automated quality checks or compliance checks or something. Although the other side of that, especially from compliance, like legal compliance, I don't know how heavily you want to rely on something like ChatGPT for that, because it does make mistakes like quite regularly. So I don't know if that's just a prompt engineering problem, like you can, or something. I don't know, or like some kind of fallbacks, or I'm not sure, but I definitely think there's some wins to be had around that. Like one of the ones I mentioned to you is like, is this job listing gender neutral enough? And I don't know how you put in that exact check, but yeah, some ideas.
Stuff to do,
anyway. Yeah, I think there's already stuff like this going on in the industry, but it'd be interesting to see if we can incorporate some of that into what we do.
Yeah, Sam asks, what if a job is updated? Thanks, Sam. Do you update your record also? That is a very good question. And off the top of my head, the answer should be yes. I have to confirm it, but it works in the same way as it works for other people's websites. So when they update a job, it updates them, so it should update it. That's the question. Yeah,
I think it does. Yeah.
Yep. So exciting. Yeah, I was quite jealous about the WordPress London last night. I wasn't going. It's a bit gutted, to be honest, but
you'll have to come down.
I'll have to come down. It's just a long way for us up in the north. It's not fair.
Yeah. I don't really know where our audience is generally from, but if you are in the area, I really do encourage you to try and get along. If not to London, to your local meetup, wherever it is, and if it's running. And if it's not running, try to get it going.
I was looking at the trains, and it was I think the last train back for me is like 9:30 at night. When it get me back like just after midnight, I think it was. So you'd have to stay over, and then it starts to get more expensive. And so, not saying we're not going to do it. I'm not going to come down, but it obviously a bit more of a planned thing rather than a let's go. So
yeah, we'll do it as a little get together. I think.
Yeah, it'd be good to see everyone as well. I bet it felt like a bit of a time warp, like back to sort of like 5 years ago and how everything was.
Someone literally said that it's like stepping into a time machine. There's people there that I haven't seen. I said the last proper meetup they did was 4 years ago, but there's people there that I hadn't seen in years, like at that point, that came out of the woodwork. So it was wonderful. It really was.
Yeah, really good seeing what everyone's up to. Like, are we all still doing what we used to do probably 5 years ago when we last went to one? Interesting. Yeah, exciting stuff. Hopefully you can make it to the next one, the one after that, and we can say hello in person, because I'm sure I'll be along to one, and Keith, I'm sure, is going to go as much as he can. It's not too much of a trip for you, so it's good.
It's a bit like it's a couple of hours each way. So
yeah,
it's 4 hours of traveling for a 2-hour event. It plus the pub afterwards. So it's not an insignificant commitment, but yeah, well worth it. I'll try to go along most months, I think.
Yeah. Elliot says, we've been discussing starting up our meetup again in Cheltenham. If anyone is local, keep an eye out on Meetup. I think he means meetup.com, which I know the event is on there. So if you're not on meetup.com, it's free to have an account as a attendee, if that makes sense. Then do get on there, because that's where most of the local WordPress groups are run from, if they are official WordPress meetups. So get yourself on there, find your local one, and get along. They are really good fun.
Yeah.
Right. Next thing on our list: commercial plugin namespaces.
Yeah. It sounds thrilling.
Wow. So this came along because I was writing a plugin, and I think you just said to me, "Oh, what are you calling the post type for this?" I was like, "I'm calling it such and such underscore such and such, prefix in the name," as you said. And you were like, "Why are we doing that? Why can't we just call it, product or job or whatever?" And I was like, "Well, I'm pretty sure that's like best practice, because you're supposed to namespace your stuff so it doesn't clash with other stuff."
Yeah.
And then Keith sort of said, "Well, what about WooCommerce and Easy Digital Downloads and some other one that I can't remember the name of?" I put 3 in my example. I can't remember. They don't prefix them. Like, so WooCommerce is Job Manager was the one.
Yeah.
WooCommerce is the main. I'm sure it has a few post types, but the main post type is just called product. And when I say like called product, I mean the plugin name, like the name that the post type name, is just called product. It's not prefixed with anything. And same with Easy Digital Downloads. They're just called download, so they don't prefix them. So you saying like, why can't we just do that? And then I asked that on Twitter and got loads of responses back. So you were sort of like, don't do this, and I was sort of like, we should do this. So why? What are the don'ts? Why would we not want to do this? I suppose. Why would we not want to prefix?
Well, for me, it was a user-facing thing. So, for example, if you're creating a URL that queries a specific post type, it's much cleaner looking to say !post _ type equals product than equals, I don't know, high rise _ product.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was basically, for me, it was just my main concern was for the front end for users. I think that was the only thing I was particularly worried about. And then the same goes for like the taxonomies. So if you're creating a query string, I can't think of too many other examples other than query strings though, where it's kind of visible in that way.
It's not though, is it? Because you're just viewing labels in the back end, not.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be in the address bar sometimes in the admin, but not on the front end.
Yeah. I guess even if you were creating like a pretty permalink structure, would you have to use the prefix version, or could you potentially do that a different way?
No, you could put whatever you want in the slug, can't you? The URL slug.
Yeah.
You can set whatever you want in there. So But I think you were saying, like, if you're doing like a search query, or not, particularly with taxonomies, wasn't it? If you're doing some sort of search, you might have that in the URL, like question mark, job category equals whatever, or job category equals, and if you have a prefix on, it looks kind of like ugly, like, high-rise _ job _ category and so forth in the URL. And I think that's a valid point. So people in the chat on the X, when I posted this out, were sort of saying, basically everyone said use a prefix, which I think I kind of knew that was the answer anyway, but it was interesting to see why. And there is different things you can do. So if you're not familiar, your post type, when you declare it, you've got to give it a name, and that's the thing that you want to be prefixing. But you can give it a slug, which is what you put in the URL. So if your post type is, /testimonials, you can set that for whatever you want it to be. And you can also give it a specific query var, so you don't have to query it by the name of the post type. But then even if you don't prefix that, you're going to be in the same situation where you might clash with someone else.
And the same with the slug, potentially. You've got to make sure that those don't clash as well.
Correct. So. Yeah, you're right. So I suppose it's an interesting topic in that it feels like the right thing to do is not the thing that's done by the things that are like doing it as the example, if that makes sense. Like, they're really big products that are out there where you might look for how they're doing it as an example. They don't do it. And then you just wonder why. And everyone's answer, probably correctly, was that, like, they were just very old plugins. Old in the sense that they've been around a long time, not that they're old and decrepit and running out, not working anymore. They're just old plugins that have been there so long, and then they've kind of had that to start with, and they can't change it now. It's just impossible to change that. I mean, it's not important. Nothing's impossible, but it would be very, very painstaking if you were to sort of say change the slug of the. Sorry, not the slug. The name of the post type in WooCommerce, for example. So that's that. So anyway, upshot is we are going to namespace, obviously, our product, our plugin, and hopefully it will work out. Anyway, any comments that are interested? Have you seen?
Yeah, there are. So Tim says, Tim Nash, hi Tim. How often do you actually see the URL? Given most browsers hide it. Well, that's interesting, actually. Yeah, that does happen now. You don't, and this is probably me in my developer web world bias. So yeah, I think Tim's right. I don't think this is actually a problem, really, a real world problem. It's just one I invented.
But you made a good point in that if everyone, let's say everyone was creating a jobs post type, used the same name, then would there be more portability between the content?
Yeah.
If you're using Job Manager and then you wanted to move to something else, would there be more portability if we all use the same name? Because actually the content would still be there. I can see there being issues with that, like saving the data in different ways and not appearing for different metadata.
Exactly.
But ultimately, your posts would still be there, wouldn't they, if they were the same name? So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that the downside to that might be greater than the benefits, but I think
you're probably right. Yeah. Does anyone listening along have a strong opinion on this? I'm going to guess that everyone falls on the side of prefix things or namespace things, which is I think I've pretty much 100% come around to that point of view. Just thought that was kind of an interesting challenge, especially like you said, when you looked at the kind of some of the OG plugins and you think, well, they don't do it that way. But you're right, they got in early when it was much less of a problem. And they had first rights on the names. So
I think it was Michael Bragg, who sometimes listens. I don't know if you're listening, Michael, but he said that there was a post from Justin Tadlock back in 2014 that was talking about the opposite, saying, why don't we standardize the names of these like post types that are always around, product, testimonial, that sort of thing. So I was left very confused. Everyone says prefix them. Then we've got this argument in this post that says we should standardize them. But I think prefixing is the way to go. So we'll stick with that for now.
Just a little follow-up from Tim there. He says, wait, a standard on data portability in WordPress? Blasphemy from you, Mark. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to say around that area because we don't deal with it too often. But yeah, I'm guessing data portability is standards are not something that or openly embraced by the project potentially, which seems kind of weird. But anyway, like I said,
true.
Yeah, thanks for all your comments. I just want to say a few hellos. So Paul Turner, hi. Elliot's here, hello. X Salams is here, hello. Sam's here, hi Sam. Derek Long. Who else have we got? Peter Ingersoll. Matt Medeiros, hi Matt. Nice to have you along. Who have I missed? I think that's everyone that said hello to us so far in the chat. Yeah, so there you go. So we've made our decision. We're going to namespace everything. I'm going to suck it up. So that's all right.
Hi, Ian.
Ian. Hi, Ian. I missed you at the bottom there. Yeah. Nice to have you along, Ian.
So,
yeah.
Moving on then.
Yeah, I think I just want to touch on Matt will be pleased to hear that we're actually talking about this. To chat about some of the marketing that we've been attempting on RecPress. The done-for-you job board service for WordPress. So marketing has never been our strong point. We've talked about that an awful lot. We have hired in a little bit of help, I guess, some kind of hands-off consultancy from a guy I know to help us with some pay-per-click. We're kind of experimenting with that. We've had kind of some different opinions on this, including like how much to invest. And actually, I don't think it felt like you and I were quite far apart initially in terms of what we thought we should spend and risk. But actually, I don't think we were. I think it was just, how do I say it? I think we both had the same concerns. And at the end of the day, neither of us want to just throw money down the toilet. I was just, I mean, there's probably a slight difference in our risk aversion and stuff like that. But anyway, we settled on we'll put X amount kind of into this. And it's not going to be like we just chuck a bunch of money in, wait 3 months, and then peek in to see if anything's happened. We're actively kind of going to monitor things. So the ads have been running for about 3 days, something like that. So this is a Google PMax campaign that we're running. So a PMax campaign is Performance Max, and it's essentially you give Google a whole bunch of assets. So I've uploaded a video in various formats, something like a portrait video, a square video, a landscape video. I've given it, 15 different headlines, another 15 different longer headlines, another 15 kind of like descriptions. You give it various logos. I've uploaded about 20 different images. There's more. I can't remember. There's a few more things. You choose like your kind of call to actions. You choose your URL, like final URL, and what you want that to display as. Basically, you kind of.
I've seen the list. There's loads of it in there. There's loads.
Yeah. So you're basically like giving Google all these assets and kind of options, and then you say, "I'm willing to spend X per day." Go. And I've set like 2 conversion goals. So one is people that book a call with us through our like Calendly via the landing page, and the other conversion goal is actually someone actually buying the product. So I've got 2 conversion goals, and then I say, right, Google, go and spend 75 quid a day, and then we kind of sit back and watch the inquiries roll in. Or not, as the case has proved. So, we're like 3 days into this, spent a bunch of money, and we've had 2 conversions, one of which I think was almost complete spam. Haven't heard back yet. We'll see. And the other was a very, very tentative inquiry. Didn't lukewarm at best.
Didn't look particularly strong, did it? Let's put it that way.
So I don't know how it's all going to shake out. I estimated to you earlier, I think it's going to take about 10 calls to convert to an actual customer, probably.
Where did you get that from? I don't remember that. How did you come to that number, though? 10?
Gut feel.
Just gut feel.
Yeah. So I could be way off the mark with that, but it just feels like that. I don't know. Do you feel like that's optimistic or pessimistic?
I think that's really hard to tell until you start having calls with people.
Yeah.
So like, I feel when I'm on a call with someone about Job Relay, I feel very optimistic that I'll convert them into a sale.
Yes.
But that's based on other calls I've had with other people.
But they're also very hot leads.
Exactly. So it's a bit different. But I think once you've had calls with people, you'll get an understanding better of why they're having the call, what the problems are. And actually, it might be that we don't solve the problems with this product, or we do, or we just need to change it slightly, or you'll get a lot more insight. But I might be wrong, but until you've actually spoken to these people who have come via the ads, you get a better understanding. But I don't know. What do other people think? Do you think that converting 1 every 10 calls is optimistic, pessimistic, ridiculous? I've no idea. Let us know.
I tell you what isn't converting well though, our landing page. So the ad, the one thing I'm encouraged by is that the ad is actually getting a lot of clicks.
Okay.
I don't know if this is like a good conversion rate for an ad, but it's been viewed 84,000 times and it's been clicked on 1,600 times. So that's a conversion rate of nearly 2%, which sounds small, but actually, considering how many ads I know I click on,
I was going to say,
which is 0.
How many ads I see and how many click on? I suppose 2% is pretty good, really.
Yeah, and they're not costing loads either. So the average cost per click is currently 18 pence, which is way lower than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
So I'm relatively encouraged by that. We're getting eyeballs, and I think a half decent percentage of those eyeballs are clicking. Some of those will be accidental clicks, no doubt about that. But I can see from our tracking that people are actually scrolling down the page and like viewing the page. So encouraging. What is worrying is the conversion rate of the landing page, which currently sits at 0.6%. Sorry, 0.06%.
0.06%.
0.06. So that sounds terrible to me. And when you look at, the kind of cost per conversion, and bear in mind, these conversions are not people that have bought the product. They're people that have booked a call. Yeah. So I think we're going to need at least 10 of these conversions to actually get a customer. So that starts looking incredibly expensive per acquisition at this point in time.
And just to remind me and the users, a conversion is pressing the schedule a call button.
Yes.
Sorry.
Or a purchase.
Not pressing it, actually booking a
call.
Actually
scheduling a call.
Scheduling a call. That's what gets them the conversion, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we had a quick flick through the landing page today, and we're like, yeah, okay, let's tweak this thing and that thing. Ideally, I think, we'd start running some A/B tests for some of the bigger picture stuff. So we might have to do that.
Two things spring to mind to me.
Yeah.
One of them is that the landing page isn't, convincing enough, if that's what you want to say. And then the other one is that the people actually landing on the landing page or clicking the ads are not actually looking for what we're offering. So they think they're going to something else.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah.
And then when they land on the page, they have a quick scan up and down like we've seen from the tracking stuff. Oh, that's not what I thought it was. And then they come away again. So I suppose, can we work out which of those it is? And can we fix it? Once we know.
Exactly. And mate, the other, there's so many factors to this. So you named a couple there. The other is that the ads are sending the wrong type of people to the site, So yeah, there's a lot of levers to try to pull, but
the people arriving they don't really want this product. So they don't really, want it.
Another factor is that maybe it's going to take seeing the ad and actually potentially visiting the site more than once. It might be one of these things where they see the ad, click, scan through, think, oh, that's interesting, but I don't have time right now. And then in 3 weeks' time, they see the ad again and think, oh, yeah, I remember that. Click on it. And it's like, no, yeah, let's get this done.
Okay, so question for you then is, will we know how many times a conversion have seen the ad? I don't know if that matters to us, but
I don't know if we will. I don't know.
As in, we can see this scheduled call
Yeah.
that fired an event. Presumably, it fires an event in analytics, and we can see from that they've actually seen this ad more than once or seen
the ad. I don't know about the ad. I'm pretty sure we'd be able to tell how many times they've been on the site.
Yes,
so
we should.
That might be doable. But yeah, this is all quite new to me, and like Google Analytics has changed quite a lot since I last used it properly. We're on GA4 now, which is quite a significant change from a dashboard point of view. So I find it hard to manipulate the data in a useful way. I'm sure it was meant to be easier, but I don't find it easier, probably just through lack of familiarity.
I've always found Google Analytics virtually impossible.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with that. I started off very excited when I saw the ad running and people were clicking it and landing on the page, and then time goes on and you haven't had those conversions, and so I've been more and more discouraged by it. But there's stuff to do still. We're going to give it a lot more time and try to improve it. So we'll see.
It's early days. Don't get too disheartened. It's early days.
Yeah.
We can keep going for a bit longer, can't we? To try
and
finesse it and enhance it and hopefully learn.
Finesse. Yeah.
Finesse. Yeah, it's a good word, isn't it? Finesse.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right.
Yes. Anything else to chat through? Any questions from anybody? Now's your time.
That would be
Whack
nice.
them in the comments.
I would like people's opinion on the news story this week of WordPress.com selling content for AI training data, because I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if people are watching along have seen this. I don't really know all the details, but it looks like Automatic are in very advanced negotiations. I think with OpenAI. Is it?
Yeah, I think that was one.
I think it is.
And another one I can remember the name of.
Right. To sell some of their content on their platforms as training data, and I think rightly so. People are kind of a little bit uncomfortable with that. So it looks like there's now an option. I haven't seen this yet to discourage AI scraping, or to say I don't want my content to be used as an AI training data set. So I think looks like that's just been introduced on .com and Tumblr. Like I said, I haven't looked at that yet, but yeah, feels a little bit icky to me, but yeah. Maybe it shouldn't. I don't know.
I think we've got to remember that WordPress.com is not WordPress.org. It's not the open source. It is a business, isn't it? And it's I'm sure. I think as long as it's communicated with the customers correctly and they have the option to opt out, which looks like they have, then it might feel a bit icky. But I don't think there's that much wrong with it. I don't think.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to say that this data is all public anyway, with the massive asterisks beside that saying, actually, it looks like some of the data that they were going to go away was actually not public data. It was private, especially on Tumblr.
Like a private
DMs and stuff. But hopefully that's been fixed and that hasn't actually gone through. But it looked like that was a potential mistake that was about to be made.
But yeah, so data doesn't necessarily mean it's open for use, does it? The information you read on websites, newspaper websites and news websites, it's public information on the website, but it's copyrighted information. You can't just reproduce it yourself. So there is even though that's the case, it's not. So it's an interesting, what AI is doing with the data. Is it wrong? Because they're not republishing it in the same format and saying, here's my version of the same article, I've completely copied it. So they're not copywriting it, if that makes sense, but they're using it. So I don't know. It's an interesting argument, maybe legally as well. It's new, so I don't know.
I don't think there are legal regulations around this stuff yet.
Yeah. Well,
and I think that was one of the things Automatic came out and said. They were like, look, there actually aren't any laws and regulations around this, and we are giving people the option to opt out, which we actually didn't have to do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that makes them all holy by any means, but yeah, I don't know. Just feels a little bit weird, but there you go. It is what it is. Someone said basically it's all public anyway. And what they're actually just doing is selling the ability to scrape it much more easily than going and having to crawl a whole bunch of websites. Like that's kind of what they're selling. Like OpenAI could have done this anyway, but this is making it much easier for them, and that's what's being sold. So I don't know. It's one to keep an eye on, but yeah, I think it's kind of inevitable that this stuff is going to happen anyway.
Right, should we wrap it up then?
Let's wrap it up. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today on YouTube and on the podcast and potentially on X. I don't know if anyone's watching along live on X. If you are, thank you for joining us. As always, if you enjoyed this, please do consider subscribing either on YouTube or your podcast player of choice. If you don't want to subscribe, just drop us a little like. That would be excellent as well. It all helps with the algorithm. I mean, we don't care too much, but if you find it useful, someone else might find it useful, and that's one way that you can help to kind of spread the love. As always, thanks for joining us, and see you next week.
Bye-bye.